IFLIGHT Nazgul ECO, an amazing freestyle drone, takes on the IFLIGHT BOB46 in the latest of the head-to-head series here on Squadding Quads. Let's freaking go. Taking a look then, first of all, at the BOB46, or the BOB46, depending which way you want to look at it. This is a filming platform that is designed to provide you with props-free footage on both the action camera and the 04 Pro, and gives you a bigger platform for larger batteries. It's almost like a step between the 5-inch and the 7-inch category. Unfortunately, in my opinion, because of that, it does miss out on the good points from both. Let me explain. So first of all, the biggest problem with the BOB46, and I'll flash some footage up from the review just so I don't have to move the camera. By the way, just to clarify, this is a video. This is not just a photo, as is proven here. So the problem with the BOB46 straight away is the 04 camera protection is non-existent. If you was to hit a tree, a branch or anything, you are going to likely have a high chance of damaging that camera. And that's one reason why, if you look on the screen very closely, you can see the camera's still installed, but the 04 is actually on the top because I've removed it, but I've put it back in just to show you just how crazy it is. That doesn't mean it's a bad drone. And what we're going to do is we're going to score these and we're going to see who wins based upon a score at the end. Camera protection being one of them, and that's where this unfortunately does fall down. Now, from a spec point of view, you've got an F7 mini flight controller, which is brilliant. That's pretty much as good as you really need for most scenarios. Whilst I'm building my own, I'll always choose a H7. As long as it's got an F7, I'm more than happy. You've got a 55 amp all-in-one ESC. So that's a mini flight stack. So it's not an all-in-one flight controller, but it's a 4-in-1 ESC and flight controller separate in a mini stack. You've got Zing 2207 1750 kV motors. It lists its top speed of around about 165 kilometers an hour. Take that with a bit of a pinch of salt. One category in these that I wasn't going to look at is signal. And the reason I wasn't going to look at it is because it's the 04 and everything has the same signal. But as you can possibly see, and actually you maybe can't, let me just move this camera slightly. On the back of the BOB46, you have a single antenna. And on the back of the Nazgul ECO, you have two antennas. Both are running the 04 Pro. This is a problem. This has caused signal issues for me and is another reason why the BOB46 has been retired from my fleet. I'm going to keep hold of it because the flight controller is useful, the ESC is useful, and the motors are useful. But as a filming platform, just use a 7-inch. Now, iFlight have got some brilliant 7-inches, so this is a bizarre design choice. What it does do is it does carry an external action camera really well, and we flew around the bando using the Insta360 X5 without any problems at all. However, because it is such a dead cat, because the arms are so far back and the overhang at the front is so large, especially if you compare it to the iFlight Nazgul, does mean that when doing freestyle moves, it handles like a dog. It handles really, really poorly from a freestyle perspective. So again, we're going to put some scores up on the screen: camera protection, signal, cinematic performance, freestyle performance, value, and I'm sure I'll probably think of others as we move along, and then I'll have to regrade everything later on. So cinematically, I can't fault it. Cinematically, it performs one of the best of all the 5-inches that I've got, bar none. Freestyle wise, not so much, I'm afraid. Freestyle wise is really poor. Value, right, well, it comes in at $685 with an ELRS receiver, and that's how I'm going to grade all these. We're going to go with the ELRS, mainly because that's what I fly and that's what I review. So it's $685 with an 04 and with an ELRS. You do get on the Bob as standard a GPS, an M10 GPS. The rest of the drone, I can't fault in any way, shape or form. And if you needed to buy a drone purely for cinematics and carrying an external camera, and for whatever reason you wanted to stay as a 5-inch instead of a 7-inch, then it's difficult to say anything other than this is a great drone for what it's designed for. But overall, I'm going to flash up the scores on the screen now based upon all those, and that's what the score is. I don't know what the score is because I haven't worked it out yet. Moving on then to the Nazgul ECO, and we'll just move the camera slightly over there so you can see the difference in how the bodies are elongated. You get an external camera mount with this in the same way as you do with the Bob, but straight away you can see the camera is, I would say, 90% protected. There is a little bit where it might be able to catch here and there, but overall the protection for the 04 camera is remarkably good. From a value proposition point of view, it doesn't come with a GPS or an ELRS, so the base price looks like it's about $400, but by the time you add the M10 GPS and the ELRS receiver, you're at $504, which is still significantly cheaper than the BOB46. The difference being with the Eco, you can also put an external action camera on, as we've already done, and it will fly and fly okay. It won't fly as well cinematically with it, but you'll be able to get the shot nonetheless. From a spec point of view, I actually think this is spec'd slightly better. Controversial, I know. It has, well, certainly when it comes to the software it uses anyway. So it's got a Blitz 55 amp 4-in-1 ESC, but it's running AT32 instead of BL Heli 32, which means it's an open source project. We've got more things available to us. We've got actual updates unlike BL Heli 32S ones. So overall, in that respect, I think that's better. However, the flight controller itself is an F435. So whilst the flight controller is slightly slower, you're not really going to notice any difference in flight. You've got the better firmware for the ESCs. So it's that balancing act, isn't it? Do you prefer to have the ESC with better firmware, or do you prefer to have a faster flight controller? Like I say, I defy anybody, even me, who is a bit of a snob and will generally pick an F7 wherever I can. I generally defy anybody to say they can tell a difference between an F4 and an F7 in flight. So we've got slightly different motors with these. We've got the Zing E-Pros 2207 1800 kVs. The weight for both of them is coming in around about the same, allegedly. I can measure that actually, so we'll do that in a second. And it says the top speed of the Nazgul ECO is 190 kilometers an hour. Again, take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt, but it is quicker. So again, looking back then at the scores, and obviously this is a cheaper. It's got one part that's better and one part that's worse. So from a value proposition, this is naturally going to gain more points, and I'll put them on the screen in a second when I've worked them out. From a freestyle point of view, this performs 100 times better. There's no question about it. From a cinematic point of view, with an external action camera, it's not as good, but it doesn't mean that it won't get the job done. From a signal point of view, you've got both of those 04 Pro antennas on the back, which genuinely does make it better. So it has a better signal. And then the other thing where the Bob actually comes out is versatility. Because you have got that longer top plate, you can put bigger batteries on, you can put a lithium ion battery on. So I'll give the Bob an extra whatever number of points I'd do for that. And the Nazgul ECO will have less. And I'm going to put the scores on screen now. There's the winner. I don't know what it's going to be. I think I do, to be fair. But again, whilst these are both 5-inch dead cat drones, and this is the point, in fact, let me go on camera a second. So then the BOB46 is 485 grams. The Nazgul ECO that doesn't have props on, so you need to add a couple of extra grams, is coming in at 464 grams. So it's also lighter, which will of course make it more agile. So whilst these are both 5-inch dead cat drones, they serve a very different purpose than each other. This is more of a freestyle beast. This is more of a cinematic beast. This will protect your expensive 04 Pro. This will not protect your expensive 04 Pro. And again, it comes down to what you wish to use them for. If you're in this to be a professional and to film professionally with an external action camera, then, and that's all you're going to do, then the BOB46 is probably the one for you. However, things do get knocked on set, things do get abused on set, and can you really trust that lack of camera protection? Whereas the Nazgul ECO is cheaper, it's more fun from a freestyle point of view, but will still get the job done from a cinematic point of view. This has an f7, this has an f4, this is not this is not AT32, this is AT32. The choice is yours, and ultimately the question is, what are you going to use it for? If it's just for fun, Nazgul ECO. Bit of professionalism, possibly the BOB46, although it's difficult to recommend with that lack of camera protection, so maybe you want to look at something like a 7-inch. Drop your comments down below and let me know which two drones you want to see go against each other for the next episode of this series that does not yet have a name. YouTube and I have had a chat, and we believe that this is the video that you'll like the most, so watch it and let me know if they're right.